Welcome to Lesson 8-5, Common Multiples and Least Common Multiples. Our learning goal will be for students to determine common multiples and least common multiples of numbers. Our vocabulary for this lesson is common multiple, a number that is a multiple of two or more numbers. Least common multiple is also known as the LCM. The least common multiple is a number that is a common multiple of two or more numbers, and it has to be the smallest number. Another learning goal for this lesson is that all whole numbers, excluding 0, have common multiples, including at least common multiple. So let's take a look at this to kind of explain to you what this means. To find the multiples of a number, you must multiply. So here when we look at this list, the first list are multiples of 4. We have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40, 44, 48, 52, 56, and 60. Now, you might notice that these are all examples of like our fours, right? When we multiply, our fact family. 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, and on and on and on. This is a list of multiples, and it could continue past 60 if we kept multiplying 4 times the next number. Below that is a list of the multiples of 12, and we stopped at 84, but again, it could continue going on as long as we wanted to multiply. But this is 12 times 1 is 12, 12 times 2 is 24, and on and on and on. So this is how you find multiples. You find them by multiplying your multiplication facts of a certain number, or even by skip counting is another way you can think about that. So now we're talking about common multiples. So that means that there are ones that are shared by 2 or more numbers. So we want to look and find the numbers that are shared both in our list of multiples of 4 and our list in our multiples of 12. And if I go up here and underline, I know that they share 12, they share 24, they share 36, they share 48, and they share 60. And if I continue to multiply both of these out, they will probably share other numbers. They probably have more common multiples than this. But in this instance, we just found the first 5. So common multiples of 4 and 12 are 12, 24, 36, 48, and 60. Now when we're looking at least common multiple, this means the smallest multiple that they share. So in this instance, that would be 12. So we're going to do practice problems to really work through this, and I'm going to show you a couple of different strategies to find multiples. The most common strategy is the one I just showed you, where you list out the multiples of a number and then you determine which ones are shared. But there's also another strategy for finding least common multiple, and it's called the make a cake strategy. You can choose whichever one works best for you. Most kiddos just list out the multiples and then find the common multiples and least common multiple. But for some people, this one really makes sense and makes it a quicker way to do these type of problems. So with the make a cake strategy, that's what we're doing, is we're making a layer cake. And so we're looking for the least common multiple of both 8 and 12. So I'm going to draw a division box, and inside there I'm going to put 8, then a comma, and 20. Okay, this is our first layer of our cake. And the way we're going to find LCM is we're going to find a common number that will go into both 8 and 20, which is really a common factor. So I know that 4 will go into both 8 and 20. 4 will go into 8 2 times. 4 will go into 20 5 times. And I've just made the second layer of my cake. Now I need to think about what number will go into both 2 and 5. Well, the only number that goes into both 2 and 5 is 1. 1 will go into 2 1 time. 1 will go into 5 5 times. And I know I'm done with this because you see how those numbers just repeated and the factor here was a 1. I know that if I keep adding layers to my cake, 1 is going to be the only factor that will go into both of those. So I know I'm finished. But then you might say, how do I find least common multiple with this? Well, since least common multiple starts with an L, I draw an L around the top of my cake. Inside this L, I have the numbers 4, 1, 2, and 5. If I multiply those together, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 40 is the least common multiple of both 8 and 20. And I can prove that to you by listing out the multiples of 8 and 20 and finding the least common multiple just like this. So multiples of 8 are 8, and then we have 16. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 5 is 40. Now let's list our multiples of 20. 20 times 1 is 20. 20 times 2 is 40. I just found the least common multiple. So that's just kind of a fun, different strategy to use. Let's take a look at our first practice problem. And you can use whichever strategy works best for you. Find the least common multiple of each pair of numbers. So now press pause, find the least common multiple of both 2 and 4. Press play when you're ready to check your answer with mine. Did you write 4? Well, let's list out the multiples of 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. I'm just skip counting really. And then my other number was 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. But I can stop right there. I've already found the least common multiple, which was 4. Good job if you got that. You could use the make a cake strategy for that one too. Find the least common multiple of each pair of numbers. Find the least common multiple of 3 and 4. Press pause, work this out, press play when you're ready to check your work with mine. Did you write 12? I'm going to show both strategies for this one. I'm going to list the multiples of 3. This would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. And then I'm going to list multiples of 4, which are 4, 8, 12, 16. The smallest number they both share is 12, which is the LCM. If I wanted to use the make a cake strategy, I would put 3 and 4 inside my bottom layer of my cake. The only factor that will go into both 3 and 4 is 1. 1 will go into 3 times. 1 will go into 4 times. And if I keep doing this, I know that 1 is the only factor. So this is kind of a short little cake. Draw my L for least common multiple, and then I multiply together those numbers. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 is the LCM. Good job. Right, practice problem number 3. Find the least common multiple of 3 and 7. Press pause, work it out. Press play when you're ready to check. Did you write 21? All right, so let's take a look at that. I'm going to show both methods. If I'm going to list the multiples, that would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, and I could go on and on, but I don't need to. 7 times 1 is 7, 7 times 2 is 14, 7 times 3 is 21, and we have found the least common multiple. You could have used the make a cake strategy for that one too. Let's take a look at our practice word problem. Lauren is buying fish fillets and buns for the soccer team dinner. There are 6 fish fillets in a box and 8 buns in each bag. What is the smallest number of fish fillets and buns she can buy to have the same number of each? Now remember what our focus of the lesson has been. It has been finding least common multiple. Think about that as you work out this problem, and then press play whenever you're ready to begin. Did you write 24? Well, let's work this out. I'm going to use both strategies. I'm going to show the listing the multiple strategy first. We had 6 and 8, and we were finding least common multiple. If I list the multiples of 6, they are 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, and I could keep going. For 8, 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 is 24, 8 times 4 is 32. We've found that least common multiple. Now if we use the make a cake strategy, we put 6 and 8 in that bottom layer of our cake. I know that 2 will go into both 6 and 8. 6 can be divided by 2 3 times. 8 can be divided by 2 4 times. If I go and do another layer, I know the only thing that goes into both 3 and 4 is 1. 1 will go in 3 times, 1 will go 4, and that's going to just continue on. So I can stop there. Let me draw my L for least common multiple, and then multiply these numbers together. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24, which is our least common multiple. Good job if you got that. Now it's time to challenge yourself. Anna is buying food for party snacks. Granola comes in a 4-ounce bag. Banana chips come in an 8-ounce bag. And raisins come in a 12-ounce bag. What is the least number of ounces of granola, banana chips, and raisins he must buy if he wants to mix equal amounts of each ingredient? Show your work and explain your answer in your journal. We will go over it in class tomorrow. And remember what our goal has been of the entire lesson. We have been finding least common multiple and common multiples. So use what you've learned to help you answer the challenge problem. Let's finish up. Please go back and review your learning goals. Have you mastered all of them? Do you need to go back and review or practice again? Write down in your journal if you were at a 1, a 2, or a 3 in your learning. At this point, if your multiplication facts aren't automatic, it becomes pretty difficult to find your multiples. So if you need to go back and do some multiplication work on those you're a little rusty on, then tonight would be a good night to do that so you have them firmly in place. In your journal, write down 1 or 2 questions you might still have about this lesson. You've completed lesson 9-4, common multiples and least common multiples. Fantastic. See you tomorrow.